Hi, this is Free Thinking Through the Fourth Turning. My name is Sasha Stone. Rachel Maddow and the Madman. How the media narrative took on a life of its own and landed in the wrong place. I was one of those people who believed Rachel Maddow. I sat glued to her show every night. I even patrolled Trump's entire Twitter feed to find the exact moment when he was turned by the Russians. I saw it all play out in my head: the hapless Trump in Moscow, the beauty pageant, the room with the hidden camera, the prostitutes, the embarrassing sex act, all designed as kompromat, a word middle-aged white women like me suddenly threw around like we were Valerie Plame. Rachel Maddow sounded so sincere, so intelligent, so concerned for the welfare of the country. She was an integral part of the Obama coalition in the early days. We couldn't separate them. They stood for the America we helped build, and the one Trump threatened. I read every book on Putin I could find. I had long conversations with my friends about the danger of having a Russian asset in the White House. I believed Adam Schiff, Hillary Clinton, Bernie Sanders, Kamala Harris, and yes, Rachel Maddow.
Russia, Vladimir Putin, Russia hates Russia, Putin, Russia's Russia, Moscow, Russian, pro-Russian, the Russians, Moscow, Russia, Putin, Russian against us, Russians, rush against the U.S., the Russians, Russian government scheme, the Russians, Vladimir Putin, Putin and Russia, Moscow, Russia, the Russians, Putin, Russia, the Soviet Empire, the second of the 20th century's great evils, communism, communism, Russia, assault by Russia,
Putin despises the West in general and the United States in particular, the Soviet Empire. Russia. They're the adversary. They want to bring us down to the Soviet Union.
Russia.
Undermine the West, Soviet communists on the left.
Russia. That does it for us tonight. We will see you again tomorrow.
Russiagate, the theory that Donald Trump colluded with Vladimir Putin to hijack the 2016 U.S. presidential elections, was a story that was too big to fail. But that's what happened, and certain American news outlets now have some questions to answer. The official summary of the Mueller report about alleged collusion says there's no clear evidence of it. Trump's people had many questionable contacts with influential Russian nationals, but not directly with the government. Having sold Americans the seductive and conspiratorial notion that the man in the Oval Office might be a compromised foreign agent, now comes a moment of reckoning for the U.S. media. That includes the networks, who gave short shrift to skeptics who challenged the prevailing collusion narrative, the one that boosted ratings and brought on the clicks, a golden goose of a story. For those skeptics, it's vindication time. As for Trump himself, after 2 years of accusing the media of a witch hunt, calling them the enemy of the people, this story has handed him a 2020 election gift like no other.
Yet no one stopped to think what all of that whipped-up hysteria, that fear, that rage, would do to people who might think voting isn't enough to save the country. More would have to be done. And what if it all landed in the lizard brain of a Gen-X Travis Bickle, who was prepared to lay down his life to save Ukraine? The media will attempt to paint alleged Trump assassin Ryan Ruth as a madman. They might even say he was a Trump supporter or his ideology was unknown. But that isn't exactly true.
100,000 people here fighting. This square should be filled with thousands of people from every country.
This was Ryan Ruth in Kyiv in 2022. Then the would-be assassin was a would-be Ukrainian fighter.
If you're not here and you're sitting on your couch watching TV, then you're not doing the right thing.
Age and lack of experience denied his effort to sign up for the Ukrainian war effort. 2 years later, allegedly, he would sign up for murder at home. Ukrainian officials have distanced themselves from the 58-year-old. President Zelensky has sent his best wishes to Donald Trump. Latterly, Ruth had been living in Hawaii, where he built small housing units.
Every interaction we had with him was very, very welcoming and kind. If he did have anything to do with it, it's very, very shocking to us, certainly.
A bumper sticker on Ruth's car reflects Democratic support. An extensive and erratic social media footprint indicates he once backed Donald Trump before turning against him. In 2020, he posted, "While you were my choice in 2016, I and the world hoped that President Trump would be different and better than the candidate. But we all were greatly disappointed, and it seems you're getting worse and devolving. Are you retarded? I will be glad when you're gone."
Ruth's motive might have been hiding in plain sight. Take out Trump because Trump might stop the United States from the inevitable hot war with Russia. Ruth, like all Democrats and establishment Republicans, wants war with Russia. They want to take out Putin like they want to take out Trump. They see them as one and the same. Why isn't this the moment we put it all together, all of the last 10 years? The framing of the Trump campaign by the Obama administration and Hillary Clinton, that he was in the pocket of Putin, the obsession with Trump and Russia by Adam Schiff, not to mention others who sold that lie to Americans every day Trump was in office. Here is a campaign ad Trump made about the collusion hoax.
The evidence is pretty clear that there was collusion between the Trump campaign and the Russians.
I think there's plenty of evidence of collusion or conspiracy in plain sight.
We saw strong evidence of collusion.
Well, we know there was collusion with people in the campaign.
I think a mountain of evidence of collusion between the campaign and the Russians.
But no one sold it harder than Rachel Maddow. She was the one with all the secrets, the one we couldn't stop watching. She was on the trail to out Trump and bring him down. We believed that. She seemed to believe it too. So what I'm wondering in the wake of the second Trump assassination attempt is what Rachel Maddow is thinking right about now. Did she think for 1 second that it might have been dangerous to wage a witch hunt campaign that Trump was a Russian asset? A scroll of Rachel Maddow's videos on YouTube tells the tale. There is no other voice in cable news more hysteria-inducing than hers, because her sincerity is hard to dismiss. She never sounds like she's lying or that she would be doing all of this just for money. And yet, how can we not see the actions of Ryan Ruth somehow inspired by her insistence on Trump's involvement with Putin's Russia, or that he is a dangerous dictator who must be stopped by any means necessary? Here is a recent video by Rachel Maddow.
You know, nobody is a Nazi but a Nazi. Nobody is Hitler but Hitler. Nobody is Mussolini but Mussolini, right? There's no point in making, and there's no cause to make any sort of modern analogy to the fascist dictatorships of the 1930s. But we are having this weird moment in American news and politics right now where half the country is shouting about how the Republican presidential nominee keeps quoting those dictators. He keeps saying the kinds of things, the exact kind of things that Hitler and Mussolini said as they ascended to and consolidated power. And you see the names of those dictators, and you see the discussion of that period in history all over the news right now because he is saying those things. He is effectively quoting Mussolini and Hitler in some of their most effective propagandistic tactics. But pointing out that he's saying Hitler-esque and Mussolini-esque things turns out to not be enough to make him stop saying those things. He doesn't mind being compared to those people. Why is he willing to keep saying those things, despite everybody pointing out, hey, that's what Hitler said, hey, that's what Mussolini said, you don't want to be a Hitler or a Mussolini, do you? Why is it not enough to stop him from using those tactics, from saying those things, from trying to make people think about the world that way? It's not enough because those things work for him.
This should be the moment of reckoning for the Russiagate conspiracy theorists, if nothing else. A man who drank the Kool-Aid, allegedly got himself a long gun and waited 12 hours for Trump so he could do what all of them seem to be encouraging people like him to do, take matters into their own hands. But what does Rachel Maddow think? Does she have any moment of self-reflection where she realized she might have gone too far? Here is a video from an old Megyn Kelly episode with the guys from the Fifth Column.
It's funny when you say, like, we cannot have people like, Alex Jones and whatever, because people are silly and stupid and we don't trust them and they'll believe these things. So let's just have somebody uninterrupted on cable for 5-6 years talking about Trump being a Russian asset on a cable channel that's getting very good ratings for cable and unopposed, and have them sort of, it's the idea that people are going to soak this stuff up, and they do.
Ryan Ruth wasn't some unhinged lunatic living in a cabin in the mountains. He looks like your average Democrat on X. These are do-gooders at heart, people who sincerely believe they and they alone can save the world. For podcast listeners, a series of tweets from Ryan Ruth. To Elton John, can you help me with a tribute song for Ukraine to rally more support? I have lyrics to We Are the One that I can send you. It would be great to get small kids to sing the chorus. Please help me. Dear Nikki Haley, wow, the same speech and weak at best. I want a serious State of the Union speech every time. I do not want trivial bullshit. I want heartfelt on students killed, Gaza murders, Ukraine horrors, Taiwan, China murders, freedom, democracy, something inspiring, please. To Seth Rogen, you and James Franco must use your status to meet with Kim Jong-un and show him we are friends and we want the best for him and his people. Dennis Rodman did it. We can. You'd think, given these horrific events, that Democrats and the press would calm things down. But they haven't. They have an election to win. The last thing they want to do is humanize Trump now, when Harris is ahead in the polls. They have nothing else to sell except that Trump's words are dangerous and Trump's supporters are dangerous. Except the evidence points exactly in the opposite direction. Here is Rep. Andrew Clyde.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today to highlight the less dangerous rhetoric that has led to 2 assassination attempts on President Trump in 2 months. First and foremost, I'd like to thank all the law enforcement officers who fearlessly prevented a second utter catastrophe from taking place this past Sunday. I'm also incredibly thankful for God's continued hand of protection over President Trump. But I'm deeply disturbed that within a 64-day span, President Trump has seen an assassin's attempt to take his life not once, but twice. After the first horrifying attempt in Butler, Pennsylvania, many Americans asked for politicians and media pundits alike to turn down the temperature of their political rhetoric. Yet, given the continued targeting of President Trump's life, it's evident that many on the left haven't stopped spewing hateful speech and malicious lies. For years, we've heard rhetoric from the radical left that goes well beyond a mere policy disagreement and crosses into dangerous territory. Think about all the times liberal figures have erroneously labeled Trump as Hitler, or the biggest threat to democracy, and a dictator who must be stopped. Now we're seeing the tragic results of that false rhetoric. President Trump has faced not 1, but 2 assassination attempts. This isn't a partisan issue. This is about the safety of our leaders, the stability of our republic, and the rule of law. Yet disturbingly, we've seen numerous Democrats in the left-wing media blame these attempts on President Trump himself. This level of victim blaming isn't just ghoulish, it's a sinister attempt to normalize the senseless violence and to absolve themselves of any wrongdoing. There are still many unknowns about both of these attacks, and while I certainly have concerns and questions about the obvious security failures that have taken place, I can't silently sit by as the left, including many of my Democrat colleagues, take no accountability for their incendiary rhetoric and shameless lies that undoubtedly have played a part in inspiring the assassination attempts on President Trump. And since the liberal media won't hold them accountable, I will. Here are examples of the less violence inciting dangerous rhetoric. Quoting Vice President Kamala Harris, Trump is a threat to our democracy and fundamental freedoms. Again, she says it's on us to recognize the threat Trump poses. Governor Tim Walz said, are Republicans a threat to democracy? Yes. Are they going to put people's lives in danger? Yes. Former Speaker Nancy Pelosi said Trump is a threat to our democracy, the kind that we have not seen. Rep. Jasmine Crockett said MAGA in general, they are threats to us domestically. Rep. Dan Goldman has said he is destructive to our democracy and he has to be eliminated. Rep. Steve Cohen said Trump is an enemy of the United States. Rep. Debbie Wasserman Schultz said Trump is an existential threat to our democracy. Rep. Adam Schiff said Trump is the gravest threat to our democracy. Rep. Gregory Meeks said Trump cannot be president again. He is an existential threat to democracy. Rep. Abigail Spanberger said Trump is a threat to our democracy. The threats to our democratic republic are real. Rep. Mike Levin said Donald Trump is a threat to our nation, our freedom, and our democracy. Rep. Eric Sorensen said he is the greatest threat to law and order we have in our country today. Rep. Jake Auchincloss said, what unifies us as a party is knowing that Donald Trump is an existential threat to democracy. Yesterday, just 2 days after the second assassination attempt, White House Press Secretary KJP said, President Biden has been clear-eyed about the threat that the former president represents to our democracy. Seriously? She couldn't stop herself and had to join in. And let's not forget President Biden, who said, it's time to put Trump in a bullseye. President Biden has also said, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart, Trump is a threat to this nation. As well, Trump is a genuine threat to this nation. He's literally a threat to everything American stands for. Mr. Speaker, these are just a few examples. For the last 9 years, the left has erroneously labeled Trump as a racist, a fascist, and an existential threat to our democracy. They've encouraged protests, approved of violent rhetoric, and in some cases refused to condemn violent actions. They've made it acceptable to view someone with opposing political beliefs not as a fellow American, but as an enemy to be destroyed. Bottom line, when you constantly tell people that our democracy is in existential danger because of one man, and when you label that man a threat to the very fabric of our country, then you should take some responsibility and not be surprised when unhinged individuals take matters in their own hands. Words have power, and Democrats have recklessly used that power for a nefarious political.
Trump might have said they're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats, to quote the popular TikTok meme, and maybe it was irresponsible. But it's equally irresponsible to lie that the now debunked bomb threats in Springfield were Trump's fault, because it's not true and continues the campaign to dehumanize Trump supporters. But it's too juicy of an opportunity for Democrats. They will have to run with the lie that the bomb threats were real and it's all Trump's fault. Here's Harris at the National Association for Black Journalists.
It was school photo day. You remember what that's like? Going to school on picture day? Who were dressed up in their best, got all ready, knew what they were going to wear the night before, and had to be evacuated. Children.
Now Harris will add the bomb threat lie to the bloodbath lie, to the dictator from day one lie, to the fine people on both sides lie, to the losers and suckers lie. Not to mention saying Trump ordered an armed mob to attack the Capitol. That wasn't true, just as it wasn't true when she said January 6th was on par with 9/11 and Pearl Harbor, events where more than 6,000 people were killed. Harris was allowed to lie freely at the debate, and the debate moderator said nothing. Here is Byron Donalds calling them out.
Kamala Harris in the debate last week, she lied about Donald Trump's bloodbath comments. Why did she say that? Because she wants to invoke a negative energy around the campaign of Donald Trump, frankly, to affect these undecided voters that we talked about at the top.
What is she supposed to talk about? I mean, Congressman, you and I have gone back and forth a lot about like fact-checking that can happen.
Kate, can you acknowledge that Kamala Harris lied about the Charlottesville comments again? Something that even Snopes has debunked and said is fake news, that it is wrong, that his statements were taken out of context. Those are the direct lies coming from Kamala Harris. So if you're going to talk about the invective put into this campaign that Kamala Harris and her campaign has done, trying to invoke a negative response from voters in our country versus Donald Trump talking about issues, whether it be in a city or, quite frankly, you could bring up Aurora, Colorado, or you could bring up Denver, Colorado, that have been overrun by illegal immigrants.
There are lots of things that can be brought up, which is also if you're talking.
But no lie has been bigger than the lie that Trump colluded with Russia. It was a bad sign that so many of us easily went along with it, that we checked our rational brains at the door. The New York Times admitted they got the story wrong, but few others have. They just moved on to the next thing, while Adam Schiff still insists the story is true. Today would be a good day for Rachel Maddow to come clean. She could apologize to her viewers for pushing what turned out to be yet another fabricated hoax to win an election. None of them could stop the hate train, even to take a breath and ask themselves, how did we get here? How did some dude living in a pineapple shack in Hawaii with his special lady friend get to the point where he believed he had to finish the job that Thomas Matthew Crooks could not? It's not a coincidence that his passion was fighting and dying in Ukraine. It can't be. Will we ever get those answers? Will anyone even ask? How many more of them might be out there? Will Rachel Maddow say anything to deflate the lie that Trump is Putin's stooge? And why did so many Americans simply shrug it off? Has the ongoing dehumanization campaign worked so well that they are numb to the shock of having a president almost assassinated on live television and then almost shot again? A president who the previous administration has already framed as a Russian spy, impeached twice, indicted 4 times, who might be sentenced to jail, whose businesses might be destroyed? It really has become like watching Russell Crowe in Gladiator. Are you not entertained?
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained? Is this not why you are here?
How can Americans vote to keep them in power when we've seen the dangerous precedents they've already set? They do not want an America that is more free. They want an America that is safer. And by that they mean to silence dissent, to shut people up, to censor information. Here is a video someone made on TikTok.
We will hold social media platforms accountable for the hate infiltrating their platforms because they have a responsibility to help fight against this threat to our democracy. And if you profit off of hate, if you act as a megaphone for misinformation or cyber warfare, if you don't police your platforms, we are going to hold you accountable.
I think we need to push back on this. There's no guarantee to free speech on misinformation or hate speech, and especially around our democracy.
But I also think there are Americans who are engaged in this kind of propaganda. And whether they should be civilly or even in some cases criminally charged is something that would be a better deterrent.
So there's been this extraordinary inversion of the two parties, and I don't feel at home with people who believe in censorship. I think it's disqualifying. It's antithetical and inconsistent with democracy. And we had Hillary Clinton yesterday making this extraordinary statement endorsing this censorship of speech in our country. We have Kamala Harris saying that free speech is a privilege, it's not a right. And Tim Walz saying the same thing. And I think that that is disqualifying for anybody who wants to be president of the United States. Censorship.
These people live in fear of imaginary ghosts and goblins they have invented. And now we see the fruits of their labor. Their fear has transformed into the potential for real-world violence. It isn't just the Gen-X Travis Bickle. It's also the young man who packed up a gun and traveled to D.C. to shoot Justice Kavanaugh. Or the crazed Bernie Sanders supporter who shot up a congressional baseball game. These acts of violence are driven by fear. Fear the media has stoked for years with no consequences. It's this kind of indifferent response that led to the Manson murders in 1969, when a group of hippies thought it would be funny to take drugs and go on a stabbing spree. In the film Network, screenwriter Patty Chayefsky envisions a future where the live assassination of Howard Beale is just another item on our television screens. That we've become numb to real human suffering because we're always looking for the next sensation.
You would describe Mr. Jensen's position on Beale as inflexible?
Intractable and adamantine.
So what do we do about this Beale son of a bitch?
I suppose we'll have to kill him. I don't suppose you have any ideas on that, Diana.
Well, what would you fellas say to an assassination? I think I can get the Mao Zedong people to kill Bill for us. It's one of their shows. In fact, it'll make a hell of a kickoff show for the season.
Tonight, another segment of Vox Populi. And starring the mad prophet of the airways, Howard Beale.
But now it's even worse than that. When the media narrative dumps so much hate and fear on the American public, it puts a price on Trump's head. It's not for money, but for status inside utopia. Who will be the one who saves the country and the world from the axis of evil that is Trump and Putin? No movement can survive if its survival depends on the other half of America not existing anymore. That seems to be why more and more people are being drawn in by the alliance of Trump and RFK Jr., depicted in this ad by Nicole Shanahan.
Across the Atlantic in the North American country of the United States lies a fascinating and often misunderstood collective. From its northeastern cities to its midwestern towns to its expansive west, this courageous group of individuals are most notably known for their unwavering patriotism. Join us as we explore the fascinating world of the MAGA people. As we embarked on our journey, we were judicious in taking all necessary precautions. Our media had warned us that these were a vicious, radical, and even deplorable people. Contrary to what we had been told, we found the MAGA people to be warm, loving, and even rather cheeky at times. As we spent time with the MAGA people, we learned that their mantra, "Make America Great Again," is an optimistic belief that the United States will once again prosper by returning to its founding principles of a government by and for the people. Under these beliefs, the MAGA people strive to protect America's Constitution, freedom of its citizens, health of its people, and a yearning to restore the American dream that existed not so long ago. Notice their rather wholesome, familial demeanor. They often talk about their love of family, the importance of truth, and a desire for basic human rights. As they strive to uphold the peace and harmony throughout their communities, the MAGA people are insistent on protecting their borders. However, they are not inherently confrontational, as they advocate for ending the wars and military presence abroad. Further observations reveal that MAGA people come from all walks of life, including farmers and ranchers, family-owned businesses, entrepreneurs, health advocates, blue-collar workers, and military servicemen. And just recently, the MAGA people joined forces with another group, the Maha people. Together, the MAGA and Maha have started a movement to make America healthy again. As we departed back to our native land, we couldn't help but reflect on all that the MAGA people had taught us. Once perceived as a dangerous and barbaric group, we found ourselves feeling enlightened by the MAGA's moral, ethical, and honest ways of life. One could only hope that a similar movement would eventually emerge for us.
We're living through something never before tried in all of human history. More people connected than ever before, at a time when there are more people alive than ever before. But by all accounts, we seem to have lost something we desperately need as a species, our collective humanity. That is why it was such a shock to see Chris Cuomo apologize to Trump, to have empathy and sympathy for the sworn enemy of the establishment.
And you can think what you want about Trump. He does not have many more full-throated critics of what he says and does than me, okay? And yet I called him today because I am ashamed of how we are responding and not responding to the threats on him. And I feel for his family. And I know you can roll your eyes and say, oh yeah, he asked for it. Listen, that's your choice, and I think it's a wrong choice, okay? We got to get out of the judgment business unless it's judging ourselves. And you got to start rewarding things that are better. And I got to tell you, I don't know how he stays in the race. I don't know how he got up after being shot in the head. And you people who try to mitigate that, you need to check yourself.
For so many on the left, Trump hate is the drug that no longer gets them high, so they need more of it until they can't control the dose and take too much. Just the idea that someone tried to kill a former president should have been a much bigger deal, but it was just another day of a fast-moving news cycle that couldn't slow down even if it wanted to. Here's a video from TikTok.
That way.
And who are you going to be voting for?
President Donald J. Trump and Vance. I want this. Yes.
You come here, ma'am.
She didn't
come here, ma'am.
Well,
come here. Let's have a discussion.
Do you have a uterus?
Yeah.
Then why in the world would you want to vote for Trump?
I mean, Melania looks very happy. Matter of fact, when he got shot, she was so terrified. I guess reality hit her. She's been by her husband. Remember, she never really wanted to get involved, but I think that woke her up. And then the children, they've been through a lot. The mom fell down the steps. Remember, the kids lost their mom. Forget politics. Trump almost lost his life. I mean, it's important to him, but his life...
I wish he did. I'm sorry that the bullet missed.
Really? You wish the bullet would have hit Donald Trump?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Can we talk to you just for a second? Why do you wish the bullet didn't hit? Why do you wish the bullet would have hit Donald Trump?
To save the country.
You think Kamala Harris is going to save the country?
Yes. Yeah, I do. Yeah, what Trump has done since he came down the escalator is outrageous.
So Donald Trump was recently shot at one of his rallies. How do you feel about that?
I wish he would have gotten shot in the forehead.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, he's basically like teaching our country like what communism is like, so.
So you wish death upon someone?
Him, yeah, unfortunately. I hate to say that because I don't have hatred in my soul at all. But I think the way that our country has divided families, marriages, all of it about politics alone, like it all really started with him. So, I mean,
so do you think wishing someone death is not hateful?
I would say, yeah, absolutely. I would say, obviously, I don't wish death upon him. I wish that he would be in jail for like the insurrection, which he should be.
Okay. Yeah, but you just said you wish that he would get hit in the forehead.
Would have made things a little easier on our country, but actually really probably wouldn't because the Proud Boys would come out and start probably shooting other people, so.
The Proud Boys?
Yeah.
Do you think that like 60% of the country are the Proud Boys that support Trump?
No, I think a lot of it is, wealthy people that only care about the finances and, there's a lot of ignorance, I think, in this country and a lot of fake news. And
I walked away from my party in 2020. I saw how much power we had, and I saw how we abused that power. When I discovered that nothing the media told me about Trump and MAGA was true, I knew there was no turning back. It was to live in truth or live in lies. Now I know what Trump supporters have always known, that Trump is made of tough stuff. That's why he's the leader of the real resistance. That he's still standing, still fighting, gives millions of hopeless people a reason to hang on one more day. And that is what a real leader looks like. Thank you for listening to my podcast, sashastone.substack.com. Here is a song written by John Kahn on X for Trump. And remember, to thine own self be true.
Up and down, counting out, smiling through the taste of blood in my own mouth. I got bruises and broken bones, but they don't know I ain't in this ring alone. I'm a fighter, was born to be a do-or-dyer, a make-it-righter. Don't throw that towel just yet. Don't cash in that last bet, 'cause I hit harder when I'm tired. I'm a fighter. I get back up, that's what I do. I didn't soldier on this far just to lose. So take your shot. Is that all you got? I'm a fighter. No one can say that I'm a running hider. I was born to be a do-or-dyer, a make-it-righter. Don't throw that towel just yet. Don't cash in that last bet, 'cause I hit harder when I'm tired. Yeah, I'm a fighter. Oh, no one can keep me down. They didn't know, but they know now. That I'm a fighter. No one could say that I'm a running hider. Don't cash in that last bet. Don't throw that towel just